This is going to be one of my last engagements in the US, and apart from a few community events, this brings my US trip to an end. And I am really, really thankful to all the organizations who have been coordinating for, who have brought me here. I would like to begin speaking by addressing some of the most burning and urgent questions that I face when I speak. I would like to address those first. A lot of people ask me around here that sitting here in the US, what can we do? What is it that we can do to help? I would say that the very first thing is to stay connected, because unless we know the gravity of the issues there, unless we know the issues happening in intricate detail, we may not be able to intervene in the most meaningful way. So I would say I would like to thank all the organizations which are raising awareness about issues in India over here, and please stay connected and please stay updated. It helps in moments of crisis to know that we are not alone. It has always helped during the JNU student movement. Solidarity poured in from everywhere. And that is the kind of solidarity that we need. Unfortunately, our governments respond only to international pressure. That is the sad part. They do not respond to democratic pressure back home. And it is only when New York Times runs an editorial on Gauri Lankesh, or when the issue of lynchings is raised in either the United Nations or here in the Congress, that our governments respond. And this is a very peculiar situation where genuine demands of people, voiceless people who are raising demands in India, who are raising issues in India, these are not democratically addressed unless there is either a media tamasha over an event or there is international outrage. Now that's the sad part. I would, however, like to add a caveat here. When I say stay connected, when I say please, extend your solidarity, extend your support to movements back home, I must add that this support and this solidarity must be extended as equal partners. We must not look at India as a problem. We must not look at India as, having a specific problem of lynching, for example, because we have seen these things in the US as well. If we look at the history of lynching in the US, black people have always been lynched. This has been used as a systematic, form of violence, which is very, very public and which is used to set an example. So therefore, there is nothing peculiar that we are talking about. When we say solidarity, solidarity must be multi-directional. We could extend solidarity to your struggles, you could extend solidarity to our struggles, and we need to look at each other as partners in struggle and as partners in creating a more just world, in creating a world that is more equal and less violent. When we look at the gun crimes in the US, when we look at sexual crimes in the US, these aren't very different from what we have back home. So the very first thing that I would like to say is that we stay connected, we connect as equal partners in struggles, and we extend genuine solidarity to each other's struggles, not because of the distinct nature of our oppressions, but because of the common nature of the oppressions that we face. Then a lot of people ask me, what is going to happen in 2019? I would like to say that history did not begin in 2014. 2014 is when a crystallization of misogyny, a crystallization of caste inequality, a crystallization of Islamophobia gained center stage in India when the Modi government came to power. It is a distillate of all these issues. But the problems did not begin then. Today we talk about the situation in India as fascism. People rightly draw parallels between Nazi Germany and the current Modi government. However, it is a question of who you ask. Whether fascism has arrived now or whether it has always been fascism is a question of who we ask. Dalits in India have always been subjected to lynching. They have always been subjected to all all forms of violence, from sexual violence to psychological violence to verbal abuse to institutional violence in universities, at workplaces. Women have been subjected to similar kind of violence everywhere, pretty much everywhere in the world. So when we are opposing the Modi government, when we are opposing Trump, for example, we are opposing a system. We are opposing a system of hatred and violence that puts people like these into power. If we look at all the Congress governments that have been in power for the past 70 years, they have been responding to pressure only from the RSS. So the Congress cracks down on Islamist groups, the Congress cracks down on far left groups, but fails to crack down on this umbrella of sung terror organizations which have been organizing violence and terror throughout the country. They respond to pressure from them, they bring in the beef laws, they bring in legislations that are used to routinely target minority youth like UAPA, POTA, TADA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act in the case of Kashmir, Public Security Act in the case of Kashmir. All these legislations have actually been brought by the Congress government. But why is this happening? And this is where I come to the third question that I'm most often asked, that who should we support in 2019? I'm going to connect the answers to both these questions. When we fight, we must identify our enemy. Our enemies are not Modi and Trump. In fact, we should be, if anything, thankful to Modi and Trump for not sugarcoating oppression and for bringing out the bare-faced nature of oppression to the front. We should actually be thankful to these people for not mincing their words. We should actually be thankful to these people for saying what we have been saying all along, but being branded as conspiracy theorists for saying the same things. And now when they and their cabinet ministers say these things, it gets proven that the state has a certain character. The state has a certain majoritarian character which is biased against women, which is biased against Muslims, which is biased against Dalits and Adivasis, which is an anti-poor government. It is an anti-poor institutional bias that we now see reflected as a distillate in characters like Modi and Trump. Now, when we are asked what should we do, I think that we, at this point, cannot afford to extend unconditional support or unconditional or unquestioned endorsement to any one political party. Because unless we make alliances with the oppressed, unless we make genuine solidarities across lines of identity, we, the oppressed, we, the justice-loving people, we, the secular people of India, will not be able to exert any kind of pressure on the government. And RSS acts routinely as a pressure group. They get movies banned, they get films banned, they attack events that they do not like, they attack public discussions that they do not like, and they get away with it. They get away with all sorts of violence. I was at Rolling Meadows and I spoke at length about the terror networks that the RSS has and that the BJP government is actually, patronizing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, because what I want to talk about is the one question that troubles everyone. What do we do in 2019? I actually think that as people, as citizens of India, it is easier for us to defeat the Modi government electorally. And as absurd and ridiculous as that may sound, because everyone expects Modi to get a second term. Everyone expects, if not a BJP majority government, but an NDA government to get a second term. But as ridiculous as this sounds, I'm going to make this very provocative argument that it is actually easier to defeat Modi electorally. But what is more difficult and what is more needed, what is more important, is to defeat these forces socially. It is important to defeat the systems that put such people in power. It is important to defeat the hate and violence that has been systematically injected into our society, that has been systematically injected into our institutions, and that is now, manifesting itself in the form of lynchings. Lynchings do not happen in a vacuum. It is a result of hate speeches. It is a result of institutional bias. It is a result of It is a result of centuries and decades of hatred that has been systematically poured out into the society by the various organs of the Sangh, be it their cultural front, be it their violent fronts, be it their electoral front. Every instrument, every organ of the Sangh has been polluting the society like that. And it's not like, make no mistake, they have been there, they have been present in the Congress. Today, 1/3 of the members of parliament of BJP, they are former Congress people. Is it then an accident that you have the BJP government in power? Congress wins the election in Manipur and Goa, but who forms the government? BJP forms the government. So if we have to do anything, we should think about how to defeat these forces socially. And this is not a question that concerns Muslims alone. This is a question that concerns everyone, because everyone needs democracy. Everyone needs democracy to counter the corruption of the government. Everyone needs democracy to counter the rampant misogyny of the government. We are actually, for all this rhetoric on women's rights, I can give you concrete examples on how we are actually going back on women's rights. The domestic violence law has been diluted. We now have verdicts saying that it was not rape because it was a feeble no. What the hell is a feeble no? Our constitution doesn't, our law doesn't say anything like a feeble no. But our sexual harassment cell, the anti-sexual harassment cell in Jawaharlal Nehru University, which is the safest campus for women in India, that is being diluted, that is being scrapped. So we are actually going backwards. And we need democracy to ask for things like these. We don't need democracy only to ask for personal laws. We don't need democracy only to ask for minority rights. No, this government, through the financial terrorism, through the tax terrorism that it has unleashed, through its and which is being used to cover up all the bad policies of the government, it is not acting against the minority, it is acting against the majority. So in that sense, it's not an anti-minority government, it is an anti-majority government. So what we need today most of all is to connect all these struggles. And if we cannot, I repeat, if we cannot form secular alliances, if we cannot form genuine solidarities in this hour of crisis, we will never ever be able to form any genuine alliances. And that is what makes the RSS stronger. All the peace and justice-loving people, they are divided, and I can see why they are divided. We don't accept anything on its face, we question everything, etc., etc. That's all fine. But the thing is, it's not a bad thing to be divided. We can have different opinions. But the thing is that we are very happy to unite around dead figures. We are very happy to organize around Rohit Vemula. We are very happy to organize around Gauri Lankesh. But if these same people were to be alive today and were to position themselves as national leaders, would we rally behind them? I ask you this question, and I can say with confidence that we won't rally behind these people. I think that the need is for a unifying face in India to unite all these struggles, to unite all these silos that are, operating in vacuum. There is discontent. Farmers are protesting against the Modi government in Sikar, Rajasthan, in Tamil Nadu, in Mandsaur, in Madhya Pradesh. The traders are protesting in Gujarat, Patidars are protesting in Gujarat. There's discontent everywhere. But the government bans social media, bans the internet. There is media blackout, and that is why these movements, they just remain in vacuum. When we talk about India, we're talking about something like the European Union. It's not like one homogeneous country. So the need today is for a unifying face. The need is to rally behind a unifying face who I don't know. Again, don't ask me who that will be. That unifying face will either be, either will come from the ground movements or won't come at all. And if we fail to put up an opposition right now, I think then we deserve to be subjugated. Then we deserve to be oppressed. That is the bitter truth. So the need right now is for us not to get together only as Muslims. Of course, we have to first get together as Muslims also, because Muslims are also divided among all kinds of lines. The need for us is to listen to what different factions within the Muslim community are saying. The need is to see what women are saying. The need is to see what Dalits are saying. And we need to listen to each other very, very carefully. We need to listen to each other's grievances. That is how we will build genuine solidarities. Now, for the 2019 election, I think that if we should do anything, it should be not extending unconditional support to any one party. Rather, we can put forward a progressive agenda. We can put forward a charter of demands that we want. I mean, actually, we don't want anything more than constitutional rights. We just want to be treated as equal citizens. But of course, there are things that come in the way. We could ask for a fair housing policy, for example. That is a very, very concrete demand. Today, Muslims, if you see in major Indian cities, they live across the street from a very high, very posh, so to speak, upper caste locality, and across the street is a slum where Muslims and Dalits live, and which doesn't have any of the basic amenities. I mean, you can see it in Hyderabad, you can see it in Meerut, you can see it everywhere. I think that why is this residential segregation happening? And in Meerut, when a Muslim family tried to move to a Brahmin locality, they were dragged out by the local BJP person. And I think that love and peace and harmony, this is all great. This is all we need. We need unity. But at the same time, we should not stop at unity. We should demand our concrete rights. So I suggest a fair housing policy. I suggest that we actually have a law that criminalizes, that punishes, that penalizes the advertisement of Brahmin only or Muslims need not apply kind of localities. I think that's a very concrete demand. We need to ask for an anti-discrimination law. Today, many Muslims, when they go to seek a job, they are simply told that, sorry, we can't hire you because you're Muslim. We need to ask for an anti-discrimination law. We need to ask for a law against hate speech. There are union ministers, sitting union cabinet ministers, who are making the worst kind of hate speeches against Muslims with complete impunity. I think that we need to ask for we need to ask for an anti-hate speech provision. We need to ask for a law against lynching. We need to ask why, all the lynching accused are out on bail, and it is no secret why they are out on bail. They are out on bail because they are, people in the union cabinet ministry are paying homage to them. So there's no, that's not a secret. Now, these are all, demands specific to Muslims. But let me take a step backward. Have Muslims in India ever demanded a separate electorate? No. Have Muslims in India ever demanded a separate leadership or a separate representation or a quota in the cabinet ministry, which was Dr. Ambedkar's proposal? I mean, Dr. Ambedkar actually said that Muslims should have self-representation even till the level of cabinet ministry. But have we ever asked for this? No, we haven't asked, because we have always been involved, unlike the RSS, I stress this, which has actually betrayed the freedom struggle. We have been involved, we have organized ourselves under the national leadership, and we've never had any anxiety about how we should live, etc., etc. I mean, we have coexisted, and we have lived despite all odds with the majority community. I mean, some days back, 22nd of October was the birth anniversary of Shahid Ashfaqullah Khan, who was hanged by the British. And his death anniversary is he was hanged by the British on 19th of December. That's one date that's coming up. I think that we all need to celebrate that. I think that all of us, Hindus, Muslims, everyone together needs to celebrate that. We have always had a vision for the entire country. We have never put forward a sectarian vision. And I think that that needs to be recognized, and we should not fall into the trap of this Hindutva trap of hatred, really, because they want to elicit hostile reactions from us, and we've actually never been hostile. We need to ask not just for an anti-discrimination law, not just for a fair housing policy. No, women's rights, environmental degradation, public transport, better roads, good health care, good education budget. These also are our demands, because we have built this nation, and we have played an equal part in demanding that this nation be an all-round developed nation. So if we put forward this agenda, which of course talks about minority rights, but also talks about all other things, all the vision that we have for our country, which talks about education and employment, which talks about sustainable development. If we put forward this agenda and we do a constituency-wise audit, and we, in every constituency, we look for the non-communal, non-corrupt candidate who will promise to work on at least 60% of these demands, 70% of these demands. Can we do that? And then if we find such a candidate in a constituency, we extend our support to the person. If we do not find such a candidate in any constituency, we do not extend our support. Then we let people vote for who we want to vote for. We have been officially disenfranchised. in the 2017 Uttar Pradesh election and in the 2014 election. The ruling party, BJP, does not have a single elected representative who is Muslim in either the Uttar Pradesh Assembly or in the National Parliament. I mean, our vote really doesn't count, and I think that that's not such a bad development, because this myth of the Muslim vote bank has been always used to actually unite the Hindu vote bank. I mean, and Hindus, in all honesty, Hindus have never really voted as a Hindu, but this was done in the 2014 election. Even at the height of the Ayodhya mobilizations, even at the height of the Ram Mandir mobilizations, Uttar Pradesh did not vote BJP. But this time, it was said कि जो असली हिंदू है वो बीजेपी को वोट करेगा, and that is how they have managed to unite. I think, and this is the last point that I'm going to make, that the UP election, the recent UP election, I mean, as depressing as it was, as much of a letdown as it was, if we actually analyze, if we sort of try to get over our depression and we actually try to analyze the voting patterns, you can clearly see that the Muslim vote isn't really divided. I mean, it's not really united. It's not a block vote. Muslims who believe in BSP ideology, they are voting for BSP. Muslims who believe in SP or Congress ideology, they are voting for those candidates. However, here I would like to point out something that I haven't really said so far, but I feel that Islamophobia is the new untouchability. The discourse itself, I mean, saying the word Muslim has become such a stigma. You can't really utter the M word. And that's what I mean by Islamophobia being the new untouchability. Before the UP elections, when we went to the UP elections, when we went to campaign for campaign for finding Najib, many of the parties, in fact, the SP Congress alliance, which was sort of expected to win, they would actually tell us, oh, why are you here to create disturbance? Don't talk about these communal issues, and let's talk about development, as if development today has a very secular connotation. Now that's a problem, because when everyone is avoiding the discourse, and I mean, people have actually written about this, that we should not do the not in my name protests because it is a communal issue, and then we give BJP an upper hand. We should talk about economy. I mean, you can't be talking about economy when a Muslim guy goes missing. You can't be talking about economy when Gauri Lankesh is killed. I mean, there's a very clear communal agenda there. Now, because of this, because of everyone avoiding the M word, Muslims do not know who is their representative. They do not know whether it's SP or BSP. And that's not such a bad development, because then no one takes the Muslim agenda for granted, nor the ruling party, nor the opposition parties. And I think that, because we have never asked for a separate electorate, we should, if anything, put forward an agenda, set the agenda, bring the agenda to concrete demands of Muslims and concrete demands of the entire youth, and then try to put up a government that actually works, try to put up representatives who actually work for it. I think that is the agenda for the near future. But of course, there's a lot that we need to do in the long term. We need to build cultural institutions. We need to work for social reform. RSS has been working to spread this venom for the last 100 years, and they are succeeding. And if we do not have the patience, if we do not have the vision to work for building secular institutions, for building progressive institutions, for establishing secular thought in the society, then I don't think that, we can handle this Hindutva crisis with the 2019 election alone, frankly, because that would amount to putting a band-aid over a bullet wound.